everyone, and welcome to Monitor Podcast. I'm Lisa Rafter, publisher of Monitor, and I'm so glad you're joining us for this special episode. I'm thrilled to be joined by Bill Stevenson, CEO of PEAC Solutions, and Eileen Schoonmaker, president of the Americas at PEAC. Together, they've built something rare in business, a leadership partnership that's grounded in trust, fueled by challenge, and defined by shared purpose. In this episode, we talk about that partnership, how it's evolved over decades, how it drives the bold vision for PEAC, and how it's shaping a next generation company built on innovation, culture, and intention. From disrupting legacy thinking to redefining what mentorship looks like, Bill and Eileen are building more than a company. They're building a movement inside equipment finance. Before we begin, I want to thank today's sponsor, Stripes, the premier leadership development program for the equipment finance industry. Stripes is a 6-month experience that starts with a 3-day transformational launch in Philadelphia and continues with world-class coaching, hands-on business workshops, and real-time leadership application. It's designed to create lasting growth, professionally and personally, for future-ready leaders in our space. Learn more at stripesleadership.com. Now, let's jump into this conversation. Bill and Eileen, I want to start out with your shared journey together, and I'm going to call it your leadership chemistry. You've been together before many years, and you're together again today, 2 decades. So let me ask this first question. What's the one thing that stayed exactly the same between the two of you, and one thing that's completely evolved?
I think I'll start first on that, Eileen. I think the one thing that absolutely, I wouldn't say stayed the same, but I would say absolutely is a foundation of our relationship is the mutual trust and respect that we just have for each other, and we really respect our differences, and I think that is something that has sustained a lot over the decades that we've been together. And honestly, I know that we don't necessarily debate the vision. We agree on the vision, and the autonomy to execute the how is what I know Eileen will do. And I think that over the years that's proven to be a really good formula. But what I find now is even 40 years later, that she still is pushing me and challenging me in areas that maybe in the past we got, I wouldn't say complacent, but we were pretty well perfected our journey, and to start over again, there's a lot of things that are forcing me to become better even decades later.
Yeah, and I fully agree. I mean, trust is, we can't use that term lightly. It's the foundation of every good relationship, right? And the part I think that's evolved, especially, over the years, as Bill has said, is that the role that you may start in isn't the role that we have today, right? So in the beginning, Bill, when he was the commercial leader and then as CEO, he was always the vision person. So my job would be to catch the big idea or the big ideas and translate them into a strategy and then an execution plan, and then bring the rest of the organization on. But nowadays, our roles are actually interchangeable in a lot of ways. So we can talk both at the vision level, especially here at PEAC, because it's just a couple years old. And we talk at the vision level, but we also talk strategy and execution, and we can switch roles depending on what we're working on. But it actually makes it really a lot of fun.
And when did you know that this partnership that the two of you have had the potential to become this, so something lasting and successful? When did you know that?
Yeah, I know it vividly. I remember in our previous life, we had together built probably one of the, well, I not probably the most successful at the time leasing company in the world, and things were going extremely well. And I remember uh, bringing Eileen into my office and I saying, uh, "We need to disrupt ourselves because it's coming." And she immediately didn't say why. We have record profits, we have record market share, we have record growth, and that's when I said when complacency sets in, that's when the death of innovation and growth. And I'd attempted on various times to really create the company of the future, not only with young talent, but technology and innovation. And the antibodies within the organization just kept killing the idea. And I said, how do we break outside of that? And that's when we both agreed that we would start a new company within our company and use it to disrupt our current organization. And that vision, she absolutely bought into, on never settling and always trying to look for the future and don't wait for disruption to react, to be very proactive in doing that.
Yeah, you know what it was? I remember Bill used to use this expression, and he was very consistent about it. He would say, you fix the roof when the sun is shining. And it always stuck with me. And and I would remember thinking, okay, this is when we do our, project work. So when he brought this disruption thing up, it was the perfect time, because as he was saying, the sun was shining very, very brightly. I mean, we were wearing sunglasses 24/7. And and that was the time. So even this goes back to the trust piece of it, and that trust has to build throughout the organization. So you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you have a vision for it, and you know that you want to change things and you want to take the organization along for it. So you simply say yes. And I think that that is one of the beautiful things about, staying in the industry for this long, is that you get to realize some of that. But back at that time, his idea, which we then translated into disrupting the way that we did business, was totally out there. And I knew that there were days where it was working, and everyone believed in it, but there were more days when they didn't. And it goes back to everything else. You know, leaders lead in rough times. That's when you know what people are made of and what leaders are made of. And that's how you know that there's staying power, that you don't give up, back away as soon as it starts to go wrong. Because if you're disrupting, there's a lot of pain. And there's a lot of starts and stops. But if you want to change the world, you have to keep at it. And that was a great moment, I think.
Hmm. Do you ever disagree? And how did this
All the time.
How do you navigate that?
All the
Exactly.
time.
How do you navigate that? You've been together for all these years, you know each other so well. So how do you navigate friction or differences in perspective?
We have this interesting touch point, and it's called "It's a Shoe." So there was it was all over social media at one point. Was the shoe? Did you see it as gray and white, or did you see it as pink and turquoise? Something like that. And some people see it this way and some people see it this way. But at the beginning and the end of the day, it's a shoe. And that's what keeps us centered on what the goal is, right? It's a shoe. So any of the rest of it, we're going to figure it out. We fight it out sometimes, take a break and come back. But we also teach that philosophy within the organization and within the teams. Bill will say mistakes are part of growing. And we believe in that because we both have a very long history of making some doozies, of mistakes. We get off track a little bit, or we'll argue or have some conflict. But if you always go back to it's a shoe, then you can reset and move forward.
Yeah, I mean, totally agree with that. And which is, I operate under one philosophy, and it's something that my wife instilled early on when we just got married. She said, let me be clear. If two people always agree, that one is unnecessary. And I use that jokingly, but it really is profound when you think about it. Too many times people just agree and agree just to nod their heads, but differences create magic. And I love to be challenged, and I'm a hard personality, right? And it's difficult to get people with the to disagree with me, because I'm pretty forceful in my opinions and what needs to be done. And Eileen has always just cut right through that and just said, but Bill, what about this, or what about that, on things that I probably should have thought about, but the emotion of my decision was already made and I was moving on. And I think that that's the beauty of our history together. Is many times without Eileen, I probably would have proceeded with something that later on down the road we would have had to alter or change or even fail. But failure is also encouraged in our organization, because that means you're making a decision, and we want people to make what they believe the right decision to be. But it's never always going to be right. And fail stands for first attempt and learning. Now, don't repeat it, but share your failures also. And too many companies are paralyzed by the fact that people do not want to make decisions. They don't want to fail. They don't want to be held accountable, and they don't want to push or change things because they're pretty comfortable in what they're doing. And that's the beauty of where we are today with PEAC Solutions, because I believe the entire industry is kind of borderlining on that. And that allows us to come in and totally disrupt something that has never really been done in the last 30 years. And that's what we're doing.
Right.
It's a good segue, Bill, to talk about PEAC and your strategy and your growth and what you see for the future. So let me ask the two of you, you're in this growth mode, and that's clear. So what does growth with intention look like to you in this market?
So for me, and as I had my mini retirement for 2 years. So in that first year that I retired from the industry, I spent it in quite a bit of reflection, learning to be spontaneous again. Just putting myself in a place where I could learn, because it's really important. And then in the second year of it, I was really interested in service to others, and in two ways, both personally, but from a professional standpoint. So teaching for Stripes was that piece of it. And I found myself over and over and over again leaning into this idea of intention, and purpose, and what that meant. And it felt like there was still something I had to do, but I couldn't put a finger on it. And, and one day, because Bill and I have stayed in touch, for that entire period, he talked about PEAC and where it was in its growth strategy, and back to the disruption in the world that we're in today. And I could feel something sort of coming together in me, that, oh, I did have something I had to do. And this idea of growth with intention. So for me, it is two levels. The first level is being exceptional at the basics and taking all of that into account, the people, the process, the systems piece of it, in today's world, not in the legacy world, because the equipment finance industry all too often lives in that legacy world. This opportunity is to live in the current world and to up level on what's needed in order for it to be successful. So that's sort of that first level, exceptional at the basics, opportunities. And then the second level is just being absolutely as bold as we possibly can when we're looking towards the future. Now, that's a little bit more sort of nebulous, because don't want to give away the secret sauce, but it's very intentional about not just a 2.0 situation, but a 10x situation. And that's how we think about from a vision perspective for PEAC. Bill?
Yeah, I mean, growth with intention is key. And when you look at our industry, I also say that the growth really is a privilege. I mean, I remember, 90% of the major lessors in this country are bank owned, and competing for capital and going into the annual budget meetings and getting the funding necessary for what you're trying to do. A lot of growth was mandated or dictated by what was available within your shareholder. And I think that a lot of it was driven by profitability. A lot of it is by your differentiation and your contribution to your shareholder at the time. But growth is intentional and it needs to be profitable. A lot of companies now are just growing to put assets on the books with little disregard to the overall return, is to keep the machine running. And they have to do that because their cost base is so high and they need a high revenue number to keep that in line. And I think that creates another opportunity for a strong independent like us to really go in and disrupt, because of course, efficiency is key. We're focusing on intentional growth of the verticals that we're in. You know that, of the markets that we're addressing, of the geographies where we want a footprint. And we're not just looking to throw assets on the books. We're looking for a profitable return. We now are a part of BlackRock, and I think that the capital part is available, providing that we hit the financial hurdles of profitability that our shareholder demands, and that's to be expected. And we respect that and we understand that, and that's what we are delivering on a daily basis. But it also, you have to have a product that the industry wants to buy, and you have to have a culture where people want to work, and you have to deliver a level of service where people step back and say, wow, that blew my expectation. And I think when you hit those three things, that profitable, intentional growth is the outcome of that. Too many companies focus on growth in the beginning and strictly growth and budget. And when they ignore the foundation, I think, to really get there and achieve it, that's why you see so many companies going, hell, we fell short. Our customers are dissatisfied. We're not growing as fast as we want. So now we got to cut costs. And then it comes an OpEx discussion. And then the OpEx, you start cutting away at the core of your organization. You lose your best people. You cut costs at the expense of the customer experience. And it's a downward cycle that very few companies are able to crawl out of. And I think that that's exciting for us because that creates a lot more opportunity.
So, with all that opportunity and what you both shared about with growth, how do you balance innovation and discipline? So, when you look at the context of a $3 billion platform, how do you do that?
Yeah, we're a little more than 3 billion, but that's okay. I like it. By the time this airs, hopefully that'll be over 8 billion. But I think that the partnership that I have with Eileen is one. Not only we already talked about the mutual respect, but I'm all over the board. I'm a commercial guy. I see opportunities and immediately want to go after it and see whether or not we could capitalize on it. I focus on the customer's point of view and the manufacturer's point of view and the challenges that they're facing and try to come up with solutions. So I'm constantly coming in. And if I didn't have a partner with Eileen, we'd be off the guardrails. We'd be a mile long and an inch deep and really not accomplishing everything we do. She keeps me an inch long and a mile deep, and we create truly effective differentiation that's sustainable, that are disciplined processes within the guardrails, so that we could do it efficiently, profitably, and deliver the vision, okay, that we have together for our customers and our clients.
Yeah, so that I mean it perfectly describes sort of the way that we're able to partner and again set the example for the organization. So, I am as absolutely customer focused as Bill is. We're in total step on that. And in fact, in every meeting, the customer is always in the room, right? Always in the room. But what we also understand is that you can't scale chaos. It just doesn't, it won't work. And we're scaling. So when we think about the balance or this idea of guardrails, they're not bureaucracy. So that word doesn't exist in our vocabulary. Guardrails exist within our vocabulary, but they're actually there so that we can have the freedom to continue to innovate without the wheels coming off, right? And so as you're building, very often cars going down the highway at, well, if you're driving Bill's car, 150 or something like that. My car only tops out, at 100. But if when you think about that today, that's when the car is going down, but we're keeping stability around it and keeping the customer who's the passenger safe, but also keeping our people safe in there. So the guardrails allow them to have the freedom to build, to make mistakes, to innovate, to come up with great ideas, to go off track and come back on track. But then it allows us in the long term to be able to scale. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And we're still keeping an eye on, the opportunities to do business. And again, it makes it fun. It makes it a complete learning experience for everybody in the organization.
I can really hear in your speaking the joint vision that you both have for Peak. So tell me, within that vision, what is one bold move that Peak has taken recently or is planning to take?
Yeah, I think that our recent acquisition of E Plus and the the company out of DC. I think that creates another differentiator for us. It fulfills our value line of offerings for our clients. They're by far the best in the Fed and the sled business and the muni business that's out there. Culturally, they are totally into the customer and sales and marketing, but also I think demonstrates our ability for us to move fairly quickly and decisively, really, to reshape our company, not only for today but for the future. And when you think about it, how many really major acquisitions have happened in our industry with the major players in the last decade?
Yeah, yeah. And the bold part also has to do with the integration. So, this is a group of experts, absolute experts, successful in the industry, and together for, as long as Bill and I have worked together. So integrating that into the PEAC culture and having it be one PEAC requires, empathy and focus, so that everybody understands that it's not just one and one makes two, it's actually one and one makes three. So that's the way we approach an acquisition. I mean, it's a cultural piece, as well as it being a great opportunity for us to expand across all of our verticals into a market where you need the expertise that they have. And we recognize that and we respect it quite a bit.
So let's switch over a little bit now and talk about people, your people. And I want to talk about mentorship, talent, transformation. A very important topic in our industry right now is that next generation of leaders. So, when you look at both of your decades of experience, how are you thinking differently about developing that next generation, the next gen of leaders at PEAC?
Yeah. So this is a fun question, right in my sweet spot. But just last week, we had our interns. So we had a group of interns here for the summer, and they were actually working in the commercial space with the verticals, and they did their capstone project. They presented their capstone project to us last week, and to a one of them, they described the fact that they didn't know anything about the equipment finance business. I mean, it's not something that you go and get a degree in, right? You get a degree in finance, you can get a degree in marketing. But what was so interesting was how they described the culture. One, as a learning culture; two, as an inclusive culture, meaning that every voice gets heard within the organization. So when they came in as interns, they were given responsibilities. They were given actual responsibilities, not here, do this deck for us, or here, go pull some files, or here, go. I mean, they were doing stuff. They were creating actual inroads into some areas for us. But for them, it just really brought about this idea that, my God, this could be a career for me, for every single one of those. That's one piece of it. So this is a multi-generational workforce that we have, and everyone looks for something different, but everyone also looks for purpose. Doesn't matter which generation you're in. And so the vision piece and the leadership by example, and instead of the watch and learn, it's an experience and learn type of culture. And that means that we give people decision making early. We let them, as you know, as come up earlier in the conversation, we let them fail safely. And that all helps to build resilience, this idea of being a part of something that is bigger than any one person or group, which we think is key. I mean, there are so many other things, but just when you think about developing the next generation of leaders, start very early and include everyone in that development.
And
Yeah,
let
I
me,
think that,
yeah, please.
no, I mean, in 2016, when I was chair of ELFA, the next gym was a big part of my keynote and my session for the year. For decades now, we've been talking about it's the same players that have been in the industry since the 80s that have built these companies or left companies and started their own. But I mean, it's a very, very tight, fraternity. Very also not very diversified. So we talked about, diversification. We talked about the next gen, and one thing that led to Eileen and our idea of disruption was that we also did not want to use industry people because they're all antibodies. They've done it forever. They're not interested in change. There's no fresh ideas. And part of the catalyst of our company is to bring young people in without any experience whatsoever, tell them what we want to accomplish, give them the freedom to fail and move forward, celebrate their failures, celebrate their successes, share in that, and create a very disrupted, fast environment. The kids today need speed. The kids today need agility. The kids want to be successful. And I don't think everybody talks about the work ethic of the younger generation. I think it's the environment we put them in. And
Mhm.
one of the first things I think that I tell the story a million times, but it's been a few years since I did, so I'll say it again. I'll never forget flying in from Singapore and landing, and I walked in, and my daughter was sitting at the counter with her iPhone in, or eye plugs in, listening to Taylor Swift's new song. She was eating dinner, and she was reading her homework. And I saw her actually flip a page of the homework, and I hugged her, scared her, and she took her earplugs out, and I grabbed the book. She's like, "Dad," I go, "Tell me what you read." And she basically recited what she read, and she goes, "I got to finish my homework." And I backed off and I said, "There's not a single job in my company that my daughter would want to do, because she's multitasking at a level I'd never even experienced before." And that was in 2016, right? So we've the new company that we've built is only 3 layers between me and the customer. My previous role, I mean, when I became CEO, there were 17 layers between myself and the customer. And every job was a silo, and every job was fixed, and everybody perfected that. And it was a task, it wasn't a challenge. And what we want to do now with our new organization is give people the ability to cover the entire spectrum of what touches the client and what makes us work, and redefine roles and tasks that not many people have done before, and eliminate silos and empower people to pretty much answer any question the client has when they're on the phone and solve the issue, and not transfer them to a different department because they say that's not my area of responsibility. And I think that will create a very exciting environment for the younger generation. It's going to challenge the older generation because we're going to force them to learn
Absolutely.
new tasks. And there'll be people that say, I don't want to do that. And that's fine too, because we're moving forward. But Peak Solutions is the leasing company, the financial company of the future. It's dynamic. It's when you look at the roles that we have in the organization that Eileen and I have created and the rest of the management team, it's nothing like any industry competitor has. And I think that will be the spot for the future for the next gen. And we're going to grow our own. You're not going to hire them, because
Right.
everybody's, I mean, why repeat what really doesn't work? We want to bring in and young, aggressive, motivated kids. I call them kids. I can't. I'm over 60, and give them an environment that challenges them and frustrates them and allows them to fail and learn and grow. And because we never debate the what that we want to accomplish, we always are challenging how we're going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. We want them to disrupt us, in other words. So this is, when you think about the whole strategic plan, succession planning, we all know the statistics about succession planning. It's rarely done. Or if it's done, it's a one and done. And we think about that in a multi-generational workforce. So we know what it's going to take in future years. And, for me, the next time I retire, it will be, with full transparency on what that succession planning looks like in a multi-generational workforce.
So, with all of what you're both saying, and I can hear just how the world of work has changed and in all of our careers so dramatically. So, what advice do you find that you no longer give because of the changes that we've seen?
I think it used to be stay in your lane, do your job, show up, and you'll be successful. I think throw that out the window. Cross lanes, go into other departments, find and learn and broaden your skill sets. Because if you constantly focus and never question the what, and that's delivering value to our customers, which ultimately equates to value to our shareholder. I mean, those are just, those are, driving north compass items that you just don't. But, people in silos have a tendency to point fingers when things don't go well. Well, that's not
Right.
me. That's not my department. It's not this. It's not that. I hate the blame game. All right. I don't care. The we got to focus on how to make our organization better for our customers. And every day we have a chance to serve our clients with complaints. I think complaints are a blessing because complaints pretty much say how you're delivering what you
Right.
think you are.
Mhm.
And then, but if you don't have the people to evaluate the complaint and get to the root cause, was it a one-off? Sure, a lot of them are. Was it a disgruntled customer that's misinformed? Sure, a lot of them are. But majority of complaints are process. Something's broken in your process. And rather than fix the broken process, companies have a tendency just to solve the complaint. And the problem is eventually you won't get a complaint because they'll move on to somebody else. And that's, I think, something that we want people to cross lanes, do whatever they can, which is why we have the role that I talked about before, where anybody picking up the phone is empowered to solve the customer, regardless. It's not a department issue. It's I own you, you're my client, and before we hang up, I want you to be satisfied with the solution.
Yeah. And I would just add on top of that, advice I would never give is pay your dues quietly. The world just moves way, way too fast. And if you have something to add, speak up. Speak up. Your voice means something. And again, just going back to the interns at all levels in the organization, don't keep quiet. It's really, it's the worst thing that could happen when people start being quiet. That's how you know it's not a thriving culture or organization. And it's very loud here, and it is for a reason. And in fact, Bill is generally singing, and that will get, so he didn't start by singing, but almost.
So if either of you, your younger selves, walked into this room, the rooms at PEAC, what part of today's PEAC would surprise or excite you, your younger self, most?
I think that the laughter,
Mhm.
I mean, you can walk in an organization and immediately, and the collaboration and the talking and the noise and, just people love each other and people respect each other. And there's that mutual, respect back and forth, but laughter and noise and conversation tell you a lot because
Mhm.
people love what they're doing. And when you love what you're doing, it's not a job, it's not a task, right? It's your contribution is to the person next to you and the person next to them, and together we're all focusing on delivering to our customers.
I'm not sure I could say that better
Yeah.
than the way Bill really just described. I think, as as a youngster, I always thought that there was this formality to business, and um it didn't seem like people were really having fun and enjoying it. And quite frankly, not every day is a party. There are, but if the overall, it feels like, there's such high energy and you want to be a part of it, and you feel like you're contributing and you have a say, then we've been successful. And I think for me, particularly at this age, I choose to work with people I like. I mean, I think it's a fair and honest um, um, discipline to have in the organization. Yeah.
I think that's a great, another great segue for me to move a little bit the last few minutes that we have. I want to talk about, be a little reflective, Eileen, as you just were. So if PEAC were to write a leadership playbook, what is one unwritten rule that the two of you live by?
I think we have each other's back. And I think
Mhm.
throughout the theme, you heard that we encourage people making decisions, we encourage failure, but we protect each other in the room, but we also challenge each other too. And it's never personal, because
Right.
if the end of the day it's delivering for our customers, it's not about the individual that's doing that. And so many people today, I mean, I have a saying that I've said, and my mom used to tell me this. In other words, get over it. She'd say, son, let me be abundantly clear. Quit worrying about what other people think about you, because they very
Mhm.
seldom do.
Mhm.
And, that was a hard lesson for me, 40, 50 years ago to learn. In today's society, where everything is about likes and clicks and what have you, that's harder for the younger generation to accept constructive criticism or coaching, because they immediately take it personally. And, that's something that, I believe, we create an environment where they understand up front, it's not about them. It's about how do we service our customers better.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. I think it's almost not even, an unwritten rule. It is where we're one peak, and our one peak extends outside of, just the building, and it's who we are. It really is. It is the who we are, with all of, sometimes the warts and the wrinkles, and the admission that we fell down on something, or it isn't all perfect, but we're also focused on moving forward, on always moving forward, and having each other's back, as Bill says, and that does include everyone in our universe, our customers, our shareholder. I mean, it's everyone, and I think everyone knows that. You don't. It's kind of the thing, like when you say it's not in the handbook. So maybe that makes it an unwritten rule.
I'm going to have one more question here. It's going to be my final.
Mhm.
It's about the two of you. So, what's one thing the other person does that still impresses or surprises you even after 25 years?
I think that I get, I say it, but I get very emotional about things, right? And as a leader, you have to show that you're calm. And I know we're going to get through it, but I get frustrated when we disappoint our customers. And it's something that we did. And I want to immediately just figure out how we did it and get the people involved and say, let's just make sure we don't do it again. What impresses me about Eileen is I'll come in just going really, really emotional about something, and her calmness is like Zen. It's just like, Bill, we will solve this. Take a deep breath. Let's focus on the root cause, and let's get the pieces together. And it helps me to get in that Zen mode, because you're far more effective when 100% of your thought process is on solution and not dealing with emotion. And that, I think, is the number one beauty of what I love about Eileen.
I appreciate that. I think it is well known. Bill is so well known for this, but even after 2 years, so seeing this over and over again, but there are people who can walk into a room and raise the energy through the roof. And it's, and I mean, maybe I'm a little bit jealous about it. I can do it once in a while when I'm having really good days. I can be inspirational, but honestly, I mean, when you're looking to your CEO every single time, it doesn't matter what may be going on. If Bill walks in the room, the energy just, I just, it goes through the roof. And that's the kind of, even if it's a difficult situation that we're going to have, there's always the positive energy that we're going to get through it, that there's positive stuff ahead. And it's really, everyone makes a comment about it in the, and even, when, because he travels around the world, but if Bill's coming, it just Bill's coming, and the energy will rise. Have him in the room, and it's, yeah, again, it's off the chart, and it's just really. I mean, it even for me, knowing him these many years, it's just really. I mean, it's a privilege when you are able to move have your professional relationship, but really have a family relationship as well. He'll remind you I'm the older sister, but you know, it's okay. Just it's a great
Well,
role.
it has been, speaking of privilege, Eileen, it has been such a privilege being with both of you today. I've known you both for years and years, and I just appreciate the time with both of you. And it's so exciting to hear what you're building together, what you have together. And I just wish you the best of luck and success and all those things that it takes to build what you're building. And let's do this again. We'll
Yeah.
check back in, okay?
Thank
All
you.
right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
both.